We have breaking news today pertaining to the gag order imposed on Donald Trump by Judge Tanya Chutkan, the D.C. federal criminal trial that she is presiding over regarding Trump's efforts to undermine the 2020 election. Now, a three-judge panel will hear oral arguments on this gag order in a couple of weeks. But in the meantime, the appeals court issued a temporary stay on that gag order until the court can rule on its merits. And that means that, at least for now, Trump is no longer barred from publicly targeting court personnel or potential witnesses or prosecutors. Trump's team has signaled that it is very eager to continue litigating this, suggesting late last night that Trump's defense team may take this all the way up to the Supreme Court. Joining me now is Barbara McQuade, a former U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan. Barb, thank you for being here to help understand the sort of net effect of all of this. Given the point, we know that the three appointees who made the decision today, the three judges, were appointed by Democratic presidents. That shouldn't be an indicator, but these days it sort of maybe tends to be. What are the chances that the appeals court here finds for Trump, that they agree that this gag order is somehow censorial?
I think very low probability, Alex. A judge can impose a complete gag order on the parties if they find it necessary to do that to ensure the fair administration of justice. You know, the classic case is the Sam Shepard case out of Ohio, you know, the doctor accused of killing his wife, which became a circus. And, you know, the court there held that if it's necessary to prevent the trial from becoming a circus-like atmosphere, a judge can issue a gag order to maintain control over the case. What the judge in this case has allowed for Donald Trump is an awful lot of leeway. He can talk about Joe Biden and the Biden administration. He can talk about DOJ. He can talk about the case. He can even talk about the judge herself. He just can't target individual parties, witnesses, and jurors designed to protect the fair administration of justice. I'm a little surprised that they are allowing Donald Trump to speak and staying this gag order in the weeks leading up to their oral argument in November. When Judge Chutkan did that for just a few days, Donald Trump jumped right back in and started talking about the deranged Jack Smith and going after Mark Meadows and William Barr. So maybe they haven't been paying close enough attention. But I think when he gets a lift of this stay for just a few days, he's going to be at it again. Yeah, I mean, and there's a, you know, not insignificant safety concern. It's not just that Trump gets to run his mouth, but I mean, in these moments where Trump is ungagged, if you will, people find themselves in harm's way because of the things he said. I mean, I do wonder, could you get into a little bit more about what the judge is thinking may be here beyond just they may not have been paying attention to the hazard caused by Donald Trump? Yeah, I mean, ordinarily, appellate courts like to preserve the status quo while a case is pending before it comes before them. And so sometimes that's referred to as an administrative stay. And I guess they see the status quo as the absence of a gag order. And so they will examine the order and decide whether it needs to be overturned or modified in some way. But I do agree with your point about not just protecting the fair administration of justice, but protecting the safety of some of the individuals involved. You know, there's this phrase called stochastic terrorism, and it means we don't know exactly who or when exactly. It'll be, you know, might be random, but when you make these kinds of reckless statements about people, there's a good chance that someone who is unhinged out there will take it as an invitation to do violence against someone. For example, when Donald Trump talked about the Mar-a-Lago search by the FBI and even accused the FBI of planting evidence, within a day or two, a man in Ohio heard that as a call to action, went and tried to breach the FBI's office in Cincinnati with an assault rifle. That man ended up dead in a standoff. And so, you know, Cesar Sayoc, the pipe bomber, there are enough examples of this that someone can take the bait that this is a very real threat, not a theoretical one. Yeah. And then there's also this sort of practical implication in terms of the timing of these federal trials, right? We know that Judge Cannon down in Florida is presently, we're waiting for her ruling on a new schedule for discovery that could push that trial potentially past the election. How difficult do these kind of deliberations make it for Jack Smith and the special counsel's office to stay on the calendar that's been outlined thus far? I believe March 4th is a federal election interference case. That's the one with Judge Chutkan. There's the Manhattan DA's hush money case sort of in between on March 25th. And then the Cannon case down at Mar-a-Lago, the federal classified documents case on May 20th. That is an abbreviated calendar, Barb. How much does this deliberations here on the part of these judges make a difference in terms of keeping to time? Yes, it's very important. And in fact, the special counsel filed a really interesting pleading last night where they accused the Trump team of trying to manipulate the judges and sort of using them against each other. One of the arguments they've made is if one trial starts in March, they'll have to be in two places at once because they'll have to start the next trial in May. The special counsel said there'd be about 5 weeks in between the two trials. So it seems like things would be just fine. But one of the points they made is that they are sort of playing these two judges against each other and asked the judges not to be manipulated by Trump and his team by, they're saying that they're asking for an extension in one because they can't be in two places at the same time. And yet they're asking for an extension in that case as well. Like, which is it? One of these trials ought to go in the spring. And so I think that's something to keep an eye on. Of course, the best strategy for Donald Trump at all is to delay these cases until after the election in hopes that he wins and that he can dispose of them once he's in office.
We got a lot to look forward to. Barbara McQuade, thank you again for your time and expertise. Good to see you.
Thank you, Alex.